Something just surfaced that the NFL media is not prepared to talk about. Leaked practice footage of Shedeur Sanders has been making rounds behind closed doors, and what is on that tape is not what the people pushing trade rumors wanted anyone to see. Deep balls. Clean releases. Zero hesitation. No panic, no pressure, just surgical throws that look like something you would see from a 10-year veteran. And the timing of this footage dropping is not an accident. Because right when the noise around Shedeur was getting loudest, right when names like Levis and Anthony Richardson were being thrown into every Cleveland conversation, this footage showed up and started answering every single question the media tried to use against him. The rivals who spent months manufacturing doubt now find themselves staring at evidence they cannot explain away, and the panic inside those circles is becoming impossible to hide. For the past several weeks, a very specific story has been circulating across every major NFL outlet. The Cleveland Browns, already carrying one of the most complicated quarterback situations in the league with Deshaun Watson's enormous contract hanging over everything, were reportedly eyeing replacements. Levis out of Tennessee. Anthony Richardson out of Indianapolis. Former first-round picks, both of them. Physical talents. Big arms. High ceilings. That was the pitch the media kept making, and they repeated it with enough frequency that it started to sound like established fact rather than speculation built on nothing. To be fair, the surface logic is not completely irrational. Both of their teams had already moved on, signing backup quarterbacks and signaling clearly that their plans at the position had shifted. So on paper, those two names were available. The Browns were looking for answers at quarterback. Easy story, right? Except nothing about this story was ever clean. The sources were thin. The confirmations were absent. And every single time one of these reports dropped, it landed at the exact moment things inside Cleveland were reportedly trending in a completely different direction. That pattern, convenient timing, vague sourcing, and zero internal confirmation, is worth paying attention to. Because it tells you less about what the Browns were actually doing and more about what certain people in the media wanted you to believe they were doing. A CBS Sports piece that people tried to frame as a major breaking story on a potential trade fell apart almost immediately when anyone actually read it carefully. No real source, no real plan, just framing designed to generate reaction. Here is where the script flips entirely. An NFL scout, someone with no media affiliation, no agenda, and no connection to the Browns front office, went back to the tape. Not to push a narrative. Not to generate clicks. Just to do his job. He watched every throw, tracked every decision, and built a comparison using actual performance data. And when those numbers came out, they did not just complicate the trade rumors, they dismantled them entirely. Start with Anthony Richardson. 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft. Treated from day one like a generational physical talent. The media built him up consistently, and a full offensive system was designed around his strengths. He received top reps, premium coaching attention, and every structural advantage a young quarterback could ask for inside a professional organization. After all of that investment, across 17 games, his completion rate sat just above 50%. 11 touchdowns. 13 interceptions. Those are the numbers the league was working with when his name kept getting floated as a serious upgrade over Shedeur Sanders. Now compare that directly to Shedeur. Fewer games. No meaningful preseason reps to speak of. No first-team support when it actually mattered during the season. He was throwing to backup receivers while the season was already slipping out of reach, operating in circumstances that were worse in almost every measurable way. And his numbers still came out cleaner. Higher accuracy. Fewer mistakes. Better decision-making under pressure. The scout laid that comparison out without softening it and without adding qualifiers. No, maybe with development, or if the system fits. Just a straight evaluation of what the tape showed. And what the tape showed made the argument against Shedeur Sanders look completely backwards. The scout's report did not create a new story, it confirmed what honest evaluation had been pointing toward all along. There is something happening inside the Cleveland Browns organization that the media has been struggling to understand, primarily because they no longer have access to it. Andrew Berry and Todd Monken made a deliberate decision this offseason to shut down the information flow almost completely. No leaks. No insider whispers feeding stories. No anonymous voices shaping the narrative from behind closed doors. That access, which certain reporters had been relying on for months to build their trade speculation pieces, is simply gone. And that silence is being misread at almost every turn. The media is treating the quiet like uncertainty, like the Browns do not know what they are doing at the quarterback position. But that is not what organizational silence inside a professional NFL building actually means. It means the people running that organization know exactly what they have, they know exactly what direction they are moving in, and they are not interested in letting outside noise interfere with that process. That is not confusion. That is control. The reporters who used to have pipeline access into Cleveland have been guessing ever since. Throwing names into the air. Richardson. Levis. Anyone with availability and physical upside to fill column space. And because no one inside the building is correcting them, the stories keep circulating. But absence of denial is not confirmation. It simply means the Browns have decided the media's opinion is not their problem right now. Understanding what is happening in Cleveland requires understanding how Todd Monken actually operates as a head coach and evaluator. This is not a coach who softens his evaluations based on contract size or draft position. He does not look at a player's price tag and adjust his judgment accordingly. He watches film, runs open competition in camp, and makes decisions based on what he sees on the field, full stop. People close to Monken, individuals who have worked directly with him and understand how he constructs his quarterback depth charts, have been consistent on one point. When OTAs open, Shedeur Sanders is not walking in as a backup waiting for a moment that may never come. He is stepping into first-team reps, not because of politics. Not because of pressure from ownership or the Sanders family name. Because of what the tape shows and what the internal competition has already produced. That kind of positioning does not happen inside a professional building unless the coaching staff has seen enough to feel genuinely confident about the direction they are heading. Given everything the scouts report just confirmed, that confidence is not a surprise, it is a logical outcome of honest evaluation. Monken runs a demanding environment. He challenges players directly, pushes them in real time during practice settings, and does not hide his standards behind polite evaluation language designed to protect someone's feelings or draft equity. If Shedeur Sanders was not meeting those standards, this situation would look dramatically different right now. The fact that it does not, the fact that the building is quiet and confident rather than scrambling to find alternatives, says everything that needs to be said about where this quarterback situation actually stands heading into the summer. One of the most underreported parts of this entire conversation is what has been happening inside that Cleveland Browns locker room. The veterans on this roster, players who have been through multiple rebuilds, multiple quarterback changes, and multiple cycles of offseason hype followed by disappointment, are not the kind of people who attach their names to a quarterback out of politeness or organizational politics. Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward. Key pieces of that defense who understand precisely what winning requires at the NFL level. These are not fan accounts posting opinions from the outside. These are credentialed professionals putting their reputations behind a direct statement of belief. And what they have said, openly, with their names fully attached, is that Shedeur Sanders is the guy. That level of locker room endorsement does not come from someone showing up and doing the minimum required to survive training camp. It comes from watching someone outwork the room, lead without needing the title yet, and perform at a level that commands genuine respect before a single regular season snap has been taken. Quinton Judkins, another key piece of the offensive puzzle in Cleveland, has publicly aligned himself in the same direction. When you combine that locker room support with the scouts' numbers and the coaching staff's internal positioning, you are not looking at hope or projection. You are looking at a convergence. The film, the evaluation, the staff, and the teammates are all pointing at the same name. That kind of alignment across multiple independent sources does not happen by accident, and it does not happen for a player who is simply showing up and collecting a paycheck. There is a reason this conversation has felt distorted since before the draft even happened. Shedeur Sanders came into this process carrying a particular kind of scrutiny that had very little to do with his actual on-field performance. His name, his father, Deion Sanders, his visibility, and his confidence created a media environment where the standard of proof required to praise him was significantly higher than what was required to push doubt about him. A report would surface with vague sourcing, no internal confirmation, and zero concrete detail, and it would get picked up and amplified across the coverage ecosystem as though it carried real weight. That is the environment Shedeur has been operating in throughout this entire process. And through all of it, he has continued to work, continued to perform in the reps he has been given, and continued to build credibility with the people inside that building who actually have the authority and the expertise to evaluate him. The scout who assembled those numbers was not doing Shedeur Sanders a personal favor. He was doing his job the way it is supposed to be done, watching tape, building data, and drawing conclusions from evidence rather than from narrative convenience. The fact that doing his job honestly produced results that flipped the entire media narrative is telling. It means the narrative was never built on honest evaluation to begin with. It was built on assumptions, access journalism, and the kind of institutional bias that rewards familiar names over actual performance data. The next major moment in this story arrives when OTAs officially begin. That is when everything that has been building privately inside the Browns facility starts becoming publicly visible for the first time. The rep distribution will tell you immediately who the coaches actually trust with the football when it matters. The way Shedeur Sanders handles himself in competitive team settings will tell you whether what the scout saw on tape translates cleanly into live football against professional competition. And the way the organization responds, or deliberately does not respond, to any remaining outside noise will confirm whether this lockdown mentality is a permanent operating standard or simply early off-season caution. Based on everything that has surfaced, the scouts report, the coaching staff's internal signals, the locker room support from Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and Quinton Judkins, and the Browns front office's deliberate information blackout, the direction is already set. The formal announcement confirming it will come when Andrew Berry and Todd Monken decide they are ready to make it, not when a media cycle demands it on a content deadline. And at that point, all of the trade talk, all of the Richardson and Levis speculation, and all of the anonymous criticism that has been circulating for months will have nowhere left to go. The numbers will be on the record. The reps will be publicly visible. The decision will be made and documented. And Shedeur Sanders will be exactly where the tape, the scout, the coaches, and the teammates already know he belongs. The NFL media machine built a story designed to move Shedeur Sanders out of the conversation in Cleveland before the season even started. The leaked footage, the scouts' comparison data, the locker room alignment, and the coaching staff's positioning have answered that story directly and completely. The rivals are in panic because the narrative they built is collapsing, and there is nothing left to manufacture when the actual evidence is this clear. If this breakdown gave you something the mainstream NFL coverage has been consistently leaving out, hit that like button right now. It helps more people find the real story instead of the manufactured one. And if you want to be first every time something like this surfaces out of Cleveland, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is only the beginning of what is coming.